Stephen A. Smith had these thoughts about the current generation of NBA players relative to those who came before.
I mean, you got some dudes that are just wusses. Let's just call it what it is, Jeannie. Let's just call it what it is, Greeny and Jalen. There are some dudes that's just soft as putty. They are they don't want to have a conversation man to man with you to handle their business. They use others to do it for them. And I don't have any respect for that.
So I want everyone to have an understanding of how we then came to this conversation. So Domonique Foxworth, who was on the show yesterday but was not part of that conversation, just sent a note to our show email saying Jordan was out playing golf and gambling late into the night before playoff games. Larry Bird was in bar fights in the middle of a championship run. Rodman went to Vegas midseason. LeBron is in a hyperbaric chamber, but they wanted it more. And when we saw that note, our immediate reaction was, oh, we got to get Domonique on to talk about this. And so here he is, along with Jalen Rose, who was also a part of that conversation. And I think Neek wanted a part of all of this. So good morning, fellas. Neek, I will give you the first thought. What is it that bothers you so much about people suggesting that the current generation of players?
It started with Mark Jackson's quote about how they're cut from a different cloth, and I just didn't buy that the players in the past somehow wanted it more. They're cut from a different cloth. I think they're the same as the players of the past. The guys are today. They're just in a different environment, and maybe it requires them to move teams to win a championship. Maybe it requires them to engage in social media to control their brand. Maybe that stuff is there, but I don't think that they're any different. Yeah, I don't think that makes them. I think that proves that they want it more, that they want it as much as anybody else did. And just the idea that we have this revisionist history, like Michael Jordan didn't have a signature shoe before anybody else before he won a championship. Like he wasn't concerned about marketing and all these other things. It's just unfair. And I just don't appreciate that everyone's taking shots. And then Stephen A. calls people wusses because they don't want to talk to him. I can think of several reasons why a player may not want to talk to Stephen A. And none of them, frankly, after they fought through all the things that they have fought through to get to the NBA, I don't think that they're afraid or that they're wusses and they don't want to call Stephen A. because they're scared of him. Maybe they just don't want to talk to him. Like, it just, to me, rubbed me the wrong way. Feels like everyone's coming at these current players like they're so different from the guys from the past.
Go ahead, Jalen.
Good morning, Domonique. You gonna be okay? You sound a little emotional. You sound a little sensitive.
Oh, yeah.
You sound like
I am sensitive.
the athletes of today. And by the way, let me just tell you something. I didn't call them wussies, and I didn't call them soft. Stephen A's an adult. He can speak for himself. But here's what I will say. Social media is something you can use to your benefit or your detriment. Trust me, Domonique. You can look at the NFL. There are, 1,300 players. You can look at the almost 500 players in the NBA. You don't think they're gambling? You don't think they're hanging out?
So my point is...
Okay, so go ahead, please.
Oh, yeah. My point is I don't have a problem with Jordan gambling. I don't have a problem with Larry Bird being in bars. My only point is those guys aren't any different than the guys today. I'm fine with that. And I don't have a problem with guys being sensitive. I am sensitive, Jalen. I'm not ashamed of it. KD's sensitive. Jordan's sensitive. He's still mad about a handshake that didn't happen 30 years ago. He went off in his Hall of Fame speech and ripped everybody. Let's not pretend like these players nowadays are so much more sensitive than the guys from the past. That's all I'm saying.
So the point I was making, Greeny, yesterday, it wasn't necessarily about the players and about how they perform. Greatness is going to translate era. Julio Jones, Aaron Donald, they can play in any era. Same as LeBron James, same as Kevin Durant. That's going to translate in any era. But let's not act like in order to be that great player and or to be that champion, the obstacles have changed a lot. Here are a couple of terms that I hear now that I didn't used to hear, Domonique. Things like load management, no two-a-days, less Oklahoma drills, less padded practices, things like that. That's what the current player is able to do. So I'm not. Do you think football now is as physical as it used to be? Less
No,
two
it's
tight
not as
ends,
physical.
not really fullbacks.
It's certainly not as physical, but the players that play in these leagues are no less tough. And I would say the same thing, like the players who are in the NBA had to go through a lot more. It's a global game now. There's a lot more competition. So you could argue that the crucible that they went through was much more difficult than the ones that the players before. I just find it uncomfortable when people start talking about the comparing eras like these guys are so different. The environment has changed, and the players have changed to their environment. The cloth is the same.
That's what I'm saying, correct.
Around them. Okay.
Go ahead,
Well,
Jalen.
It's built now. It's built.
all settled.
What the thing is now is it's built for the players to have longevity. It's a business interest by the team. We're going to protect our investment. So we don't want you to practice twice a day. We don't want you to play 4 games in 5 nights. We don't want you to play back-to-backs. So the players now coming up in that era become functions of those rules, and it allows, unfortunately for them, people that played in the previous era to throw shade, and that happens in every profession. That happens in movies. That happens in music. It happens in sports. I understand exactly what you're saying. But again, let's not act like the game, football or basketball, is as physical now as it used to be, because it ain't.
Oh, yeah, it's not nearly as physical, but the players want it just as much, and they are not nearly.
That's all I'm saying.
And they are the same level of sensitivity. And it was ironic yesterday to have people talking about how sensitive players are now, and then the next show they debate why Michael Jordan broke off his friendship with Charles Barkley because he said some mean things about him. Like, talk about sensitive. This whole Last Dance is just about how sensitive Jordan is. And let me be clear, I don't have a problem with sensitive people. I'm sensitive. There are situations where being sensitive is helpful. There are situations where it is bad for you. The same is going for insensitive. So being sensitive is not bad, but let's not pretend like they were some sort of robot monsters that couldn't be touched and didn't care. Then the 30 for 30, he said before the final game against the Cavs, and when he hit that big shot, he went and pointed at all the reporters who picked against them and said, "I got to compare you."
Well, hold on.
That's the same thing as tweeting back at a sports writer.
Hold on. It's 2 of us speaking here today. Hey, Greeny.
Yeah.
Today's player, if you think about it, I've said this on multiple occasions. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. We worked out. These guys train. They have more range. They have more athleticism. No question about it. Domonique, you're right about the function of an athlete. Right. But let's not act like today's game is more physical, and today's player has to endure something from the public and the media that the past player didn't have to do. It was the exact